Okay, today we're gonna talk about my testimony. Um, I'd watched a lot of near-death near-death experience videos. I wanted to see if there was a connection to where I could see if they matched the Bible and um, you know, try to see in other parts, you know, besides the Bible, if I could, um, you know, make I guess, a validation. Um, So, anyways, I was watching a bunch of these videos, and some of them just would hover over their bodies and then talk about how other people, they could tell what other conversations were going on. So, if they were in the operating room, they were hearing conversations on the other side of the hospital, and being able to recite those conversations um, back to the people that had them. And and then on some places, I'd seen some where they had talked to the nurses and doctors, and that, they were saying that what they said was true, not that they necessarily believed in Jesus, but what happened was true. And so some of them went to heaven, some of them went to hell, some of them did both, some of them seen Jesus, some didn't. And but it for me, it made me believe that these things really happened, that they didn't just die. They went to another place and then came back into their body. Some described what it was like to go back into their body, and it wasn't a pleasant thing. Some of them, it was just like snapping their fingers and they're back in their body. So anyway, for me, it put me at it got me to a point where it's like, this has to be. There's no other way it cannot be. And so I was at work at the time, and so I got out of my truck. I pulled up to a place where I worked, and I was going to go inside and use the restroom. And so on my way into the building, I got into the building, and on the way to the restroom, I felt this energy like emanating out of my body. So I looked down, and I couldn't see it with my eyes, but I could see it with my head, the third eye kind of thing. It was, what I saw was this blue, like, aura emanating out, and I could feel it. And so it was such a trip, as I was walking, I just put my arms up out straight, and I could feel it trailing off of my arms, and I could feel it trailing off of my body. And so as I was walking, I kind of turned around and, kept walking in the same direction. I was looking to see if I could see it with my eyes, but I couldn't see it with my eyes, but I could see it with my head. And, and it was, I was walking for maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 feet. And so I was like, man, this is weird. And, exciting too. Another thing I saw along with the blue aura was this band, and it wasn't like a ribbon. It was, maybe as thick as a type of a ribbon, but it was more of like a smoky kind of thing, to where how the aura was, it wasn't like a solid thing. And so there was this band of gray that went all the way around, and I, in my head, that's what I saw was gray. But I knew it wasn't gray. It was like a color I couldn't, I wouldn't be able to comprehend. So that's what I saw was gray. And but so after I had taken about 15 steps and was just, tripping out on this, going, whoa, I heard this voice, and it said, "Tell her, tell her." And I stopped dead in my tracks, and I looked up and to my right, and it was like the voice was coming from a person that was 7 foot tall, but I wasn't seeing anybody. And so, with my eyes, And but I could hear where it was coming from, and it was like, maybe 3 feet from me, at a 7 foot tall person off to my right, and so he was really close. But so I was looking, and all he was saying over and over was, "Tell her, tell her." And so while that was going on, in my head, I'm like, whoa, no one's gonna, if I try to tell anybody about this, no one's gonna believe me. And he kept saying it, tell her, tell her. And I knew exactly what he meant. He meant tell my wife what I was experiencing. But still, during that moment, while he was saying, tell her, I was in kind of like a shock. Like, um, I don't, I was like, at the same time I was saying, nobody's in my head, nobody's going to believe me. I'm hearing this voice. I'm not seeing anybody. And then knowing what he's telling me, knowing who he's talking about without him telling me who he's talking about. And so, you know, he was saying it so many times, I got to a point to where verbally I go, oh, okay, I'll tell her. And so then that was it. And I finished, I went to the restroom and, finished my work day and went home, and she made me dinner, and dinner was already ready when I got home, basically. And so, I sat down, was in front of the TV and had the dinner tray and on the couch. And so I was like, man, I got to tell her, and I'm afraid to tell her because she's going to think I'm crazy. So anyway, so the food's sitting in front of me, TV's on, and so I reach down, I grab my fork, and I scoop up some food, and I lift the fork, and I made it to about here, and he started up again. He goes, tell her, tell her, tell her, tell her. And I was like, I was going, man, I'm hearing this voice again, and the TV's on, and the TV is like theater level loud. It's, my wife likes it loud, so we have it loud, and it's louder than I like, but sometimes it hurts my ears. But anyway, the voice is getting louder and louder, and it's just in my head. It's kind of strange. It's like, it seems like it's coming from outside, but I'm only hearing it in my head. I know I'm not hearing it through my ears. So it's getting louder, tell her. And the part that tripped me out was the TV was so loud, and that voice was getting higher and louder, and it was getting louder and louder without the volume raising in my head. But how I knew it was getting louder is that the TV was fading away. So the TV volume was going away, and I'm like, whoa, this voice is getting louder. If this voice was outside my head, my ears would be bleeding because of how loud it is. And the TV is going down in volume because it's so loud. And I was going, this is weird. And I knew it was real. I never had this experience before, but I knew it was real. And so I didn't even take a bite. I just put my fork down, and in my head I was going, okay, I'll tell her. And then he stopped. So I put my fork down, I turned, and started telling her what I just told you. And of course, she, tripped out. She's like, what does this mean? And so anyway, after that part, it was like, I don't know, 2 weeks later, that it dawned on me that even though I was thinking, God or his messenger was talking to me, and it's like, he took the time to talk to me, me being nobody, but this was an experience that I had, and I was thinking the me thing. And, you know, it was a special thing for me. But 2 weeks later, it dawns on me, it wasn't for me. It was for my wife. He was telling me to tell her, and to, you know, whatever reasons he wanted me to do that for. So I even think that brought it to a next higher level. You know, we're supposed to be humble, and we're not supposed to have the me thing going on. So even though when you do know you're not supposed to have the me thing going on, when it does happen, you still have feelings about it. So, you know, makes me feel special, but it it wasn't for me. And I don't know if that's going to make any sense to some of you. I hope it does. But to me, that made it a really cool thing that he was using me to possibly, you know, reach somebody else. And I thought that was pretty awesome. So that's basically my testimony. And I mean, once you get to that point to where I believe, and there cannot be any other way, that he exists and there is no other explanation for it, that things happen, and things that are supernatural things happen. So whether he talks to you, whether you can hear him physically, mentally, there's all different kinds of ways that he could talk to you, and that he does things for you and for other people that you couldn't see before. So that's a benefit, I believe, that you get after you truly believe. You believe that he exists as much as you believe you exist. So I guess I'm gonna sign off here and talk about maybe some more benefits that you have after getting to the point to where you believe. And so I'll see you next time.